Keyonte George makes his first NBA start on his 20th birthday, and the Jazz look organized and better offensively, but too many checkered flags at the rim for the Pacers tonight in a 133-118 Pacer win. We're talking about it coming up next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone as the Indiana Pacers win at 134-118. My note says 133. They don't know what happened there. Sorry, my fault. The big story, though, was Keyonte George and Ochai Agbaji starting for the Jazz. Just to give you a quick rundown of the game, Jazz game of runs in the first quarter, tied at 29. Pacers led by 7 at the half. They had 20 shots in the first half at the rim. The Jazz cut it to 3 as Clarkson had 28 by the end of 3 to 101-98. And then the Pacers really ran him off the court in the fourth quarter, outscoring him 33-20 as the Jazz offense completely went awry in the final 5 minutes. Few too many turnovers again, 21 tonight. And the Pacers took 44 shots at the rim, which was the story, continuing their running game all night. Let's start with the headliner. The headliner's Keyonte George makes his first start. What do you think, Ron?
Impressed. I thought he played with a lot of confidence, and you know, he didn't make a ton of mistakes. He ended up with one turnover, and it was like we saw it coming from up here. But for the most part, the important thing here is he played 31 minutes. 31 minutes, and those are the starter minutes that we were talking about that he needs in order for his confidence to build and feel like he belongs out there on the floor.
I got to say, 9 games in the season is much earlier than I anticipated Keyonte George starting for this team.
Absolutely, and I think that was discussed, you know, that eventually it's going to happen. You just didn't expect for it to be 9 games into the season.
So the fact it's this early, I think makes it a little harder on him than if they'd been able to wait to the 20th game. And frankly, guys didn't play. You know, nobody owned that spot. Nobody owned it at a training camp. Nobody owned it. Keyonte actually just kind of became abundantly clear what's going to happen, and you just pull the plug and do it. It's a little earlier than I think maybe you anticipate. So I think it might be a little harder for him than it would have been otherwise if he'd had another 15, 20 games. Yeah. Where are the areas where he may struggle doing this because of how early it was?
I think defensively that's going to be a struggle. Why? Because he doesn't know a lot of the players in the league right now. He doesn't know the tendencies. I mean, you see him on film, true enough, but unless you're playing in front of those guys that you're going to be defending, it's awfully tough to take away some of the strength of some of these players. Offensively, I think he's got the confidence, and I think eventually that just becomes to the point where he might be getting 15 shots a ball game, something like that. But I think defensively is probably the biggest thing. And then the other thing that Will talks about quite a bit is just making the right reads and the right decisions.
How do you think he makes a really bad pass, cross-court pass late in the game that kind of was a death nail? Yeah. What did you think generally on his decisions? The offense looked much smoother. There was much more space. Some of this is no Walker. Walker and John Collins are having a hard time spacing. The Jazz really weren't playing well with the two of them on the floor. So it's a little hard to tell. Was this Keyonte moving the basketball, or was there was just more space because of the personnel on the floor?
I thought he was making the right passes, the right plays, getting the team into the offense. And I also thought he deferred a lot. You know, deferred a lot meaning you make the play. I'll give it to Markkanen, and knowing that Markkanen is a star player, but you just give him the basketball in the right spot, and then you go away. Instead, I mean, you can just see that he was playing, let's put it this way, not to make a mistake rather than just letting it flow.
And was he playing to not offend? Like in the sense that he didn't want to suddenly come out? I mean, I remember when Donovan in Philadelphia took whatever it was, like 30 shots and had no assists, and like his teammates were looking at him like, dude, like really?
Yeah.
Like that team was pretty nice to Donovan to allow him to go through that. Like Keyonte's 19 trying to figure out, like, or now 20, happy birthday. Like, is there a level where tonight he's like, you know what, I'm going to make sure that when I go in the locker room at the end of the night, my teammates still think I'm an all right dude and that I didn't just come out here and ball hog it for 24 shots.
He didn't force anything. And when I mean he deferred, it means he didn't force anything. Yes.
Simone Fontecchio is a real bright spot tonight. He came off the bench. The word we've keep getting from the coaches is that if anyone had a camp that's, one of the conversation points is that nobody separated themselves, right? Nobody went to camp and did something that was way better. I mean, Lowry was the best player at camp, but he was the best player. Simone was the one guy everyone kind of said, if there was somebody who came in here and ended camp here, it was Simone. And then super interesting was during the media sessions when we met with Simone, and he talked about the ankle, how bad the ankle injury he had last year was, and the surgery he had after the season. You go back before that ankle injury, he really is shooting it pretty well tonight. That was a nice factor to have off the bench. 2 of 5 from 3, 4 of 8, 10 points. Really kept the Jazz in the game in that second quarter. He's the reason they kind of worked their way back.
Yeah, he played just under 20 minutes, about 18 and a half minutes of ball game. But that's the player that can give you production in a short period of time. Yeah. And so that's the kind of player that coaches love, because they can go in there and get the job done and not really hurt the basketball team.
Greatest thing about the night tonight was Jordan Clarkson rolling again, finally, after a really miserable stretch of 3 games and visible frustration. He got it going tonight. What do you think? Well, again, is that I mean, I'm actually kind of curious to go back and look at like what his numbers were when Walker started in the last part of the season, because he didn't finish the year great last year, and then he sat for a long time. So I'm not sure there's a big sample size, but was this space on the floor that allowed Jordan to make plays? He still turned it over, I think, 6 times tonight, which isn't great. But what allowed Jordan to go tonight? Was he just better, or is there something about Keyonte or the floor spacing that was better for him?
Floor spacing, obviously, I think was one of the big factors there, and then the type of team that they're playing. We'll see going forward, when there's a team the defense might be a little bit tighter, they might play a little slower in the half court. Defense might be a little bit better to shutting the middle off, that type of thing. But these games are confidence builders. All of a sudden now he goes 12 for 26 in 33 minutes, comes up with 5 assists, and he has a season high of 33 points, and your confidence picks up. So the next ball game, hopefully he rolls the same way.
33 for Jordan tonight. Lowry had 24. All right, the one concern, or there's probably a few, but the biggest 21 turnovers is still a concern. And honestly, the thing about the turnovers, Ron, in my opinion, is they're dribbling and passing turnovers.
Yeah.
They're not like you're being pressured and trapped. We literally are dribbling the ball and losing control of our dribble and not being able to complete point A to point B passes.
Yeah, it's what you're talking about. The Jazz get 22 turnovers, 28 points off of those turnovers. That's
too bad.
Too bad, yeah.
All right, the other concern tonight, Walker Kessler's out for 2 weeks at least. He'll be reevaluated. Non-contact for 2 weeks with the elbow. And we allow 44 shots at the rim tonight. This is not a team that came in taking an awful lot. They were league average, 14th in the league. League average is 33% of your shots at the rim. They took 44 of their 101 shots at the rim. They took 44% of their shots at the rim tonight. The scouting report's going to get out. This is what everyone's going to do, because John Collins is 6'9". Kelly Olynyk is not a jumper. What are the Jazz going to do to try to prevent assault on the rim?
I think when we play a team that doesn't play as fast and up and down the floor as the Pacers, we'll have a pretty good read on how the Jazz are going to do going forward, playing against the other teams that don't play as fast and don't push the ball up the floor after miss and made shots and that type of thing. But I think we just have to wait and see. I know they want to shrink the floor defensively, but they got to get back and defensive end too.
The transition of Indiana is a big issue. They were in transition 21% of the game tonight. They're usually about 17 or 18%, so they certainly were out and running a lot. It happened a lot in the fourth quarter. The numbers get skewed by the fourth quarter. Here's a stunning number on tonight's game. So if you stayed with Postcast to this point, I'm going to make it worth your while with a stunning note. The Pacers in the half court tonight scored 108 points per 100 possessions, which is really high, 88th percentile. The Pacers in transition tonight scored 105 points in 100 possessions. They scored at a higher rate in the half court tonight than they did in transition. You almost never see that. Jazz continue to be an elite offensive rebounding team, by the way. They had 37% of their offensive rebounds come back to them. They've really done a great job of that.
Yeah, so. You got Nesmith and Smith. Both of those guys coming off the bench and having some pretty good nights. And then the 41 3-point shots that they put up, they seem to make them at the right time. They made 13 of 41.
Benedict Mathurin came in 0 for 12 on off-the-bounce 3-point shots, so he hit 4. Like, sometimes you're just on the wrong side of it every night. Feels like it right now. All right, stars tonight. Jordan Clarkson's got to get one of them.
Absolutely.
33 points, 12 of 26 shooting, 6 turnovers, 5 assists for Jordan tonight. Keyonte had 9 assists tonight. in his start, but I'm guessing I know where you're going for your second star.
Simone.
Simone Fontecchio.
Yes.
And I'm just curious to look at one thing. Can I see one other
Sure.
note here? I do not really believe in game-by-game plus-minus, but I'm super curious tonight to see Kalen Horton-Tucker. Interesting. That's super interesting. Simone was minus 15 in 18 minutes. I thought, I still would give him the star. And I don't think that's why I don't really love game-by-game plus-minus. Talen's the only player that was positive. Kelly Olynyk, who has been our most positive plus-minus player tonight, was minus 19 in 20 minutes. Keyonte, minus 11 in 30 minutes tonight. Ochai was minus 3 in 25. So, all right, that Jazz have lost. I'm losing count. 4 in a row?
Yep.
4 in a row. We head to Memphis for the first in-season tournament game on Friday. Thanks very much for listening to Postcast tonight.